I want to take you to some laboratory experiments so that we can develop a model, a way of thinking about influence. So at our labs, a couple of years back, we brought a whole bunch of munchkins together, a bunch of kids, 6th and 7th graders. We wanted them to be old enough to understand money and be motivated to some degree by it. So we brought a number of children into the lab, and we gave them an opportunity to earn $40 by completing 4 simple tasks, $10 each, over a period of 10 minutes. So easy money, simple tasks, brief amount of time. And we hoped that they would save their money to go do something useful with it later. In order to help them save their money, we asked them to anchor their commitments to some goal. So listen in as they describe what they want to do with their money.
Well, I was wanting to get a new video game, maybe a new pair of shoes.
College money.
Wait till Christmas comes and then buy my sister a really cute outfit.
So they got a goal, right? They've all got something to anchor their intentions. Now the question is, how did they do? Now remember, 4 easy tasks, 10 minutes, $40. The only temptation we offered them was the opportunity to buy things at what we called our Change Anything store. So we set up a little table, and we had goods priced at 5 to 10 times what these kids knew you would pay in the store. So not a temptation at all. You'll see, for example, a candy bar available for $10, right? Or a tiny little hard candy for $2. So all these kids knew this was not a particularly good deal. How did they do in dealing with that modest temptation? Let's have a look. Bummer. Well, let's look at the statistics. Out of a potential $40 in savings, the average person took home $13. Now, not a good outcome. We were absolutely blown away. They spent like crazy. In fact, some of the kids went into debt in a 10-minute period of time. Now, you and I can sympathize. So the question becomes, why? Why? Now, here's the problem. You and I, particularly with a religious perspective, so often believe that the reason people do what they do is because they lack commitment, they lack resolve. We describe these as personal motivation problems. This is a naive view of the world. And in fact, what it causes us to do is when somebody fails, we deliver another sermon, which often isn't what's needed. So Jane makes a commitment to make and keep small commitments to improve her incomes and savings, and she fails. What do? Do we give her a motivational talk? Well, we do if we don't understand influence. So what I want to do is unpack that experience. I want to pull back the curtain and show you what we did to these kids, but first I want you to test whether they were aware of what we did. So we asked them to explain their failures. Listen to their explanations.
There was like a lot of good stuff to buy. I'm not sure if I can answer that question.
Neither am I. All right. So they're baffled. You know, why did I do this? I wanted to save, and I've got no money left. You know, what happened to me? Well, here's what happened. And this is where you need to start taking notes, because there were intentional influence systems put in place, the same that Jane is subject to as she goes out to try to keep the commitments she made to increase her income and savings. First of all, as each of the kids came in, we gave them a taste of their favorite candy. We did what psychologists call putting them in a hot mode. We wanted them in a hot, impulsive mode. So we just gave them a little taste, and here's a free sample of what you have available on the table. Second, we gave them no skills, so we put them into novel circumstances, and we didn't skill them up to deal with some of the novel challenges that they'd face. Third, we subjected them to social influence. So you'll notice how the model is organized. These are the repeatable, learnable, intentional sources of influence. They embody all of what the social sciences have been repeatedly demonstrating for the past 70 years about why you and I do what we do. A large reason is because we're socially motivated or socially enabled. In fact, to the degree that you and I are naive about how profound these sources of influence are. Let me show you how modest the intervention was from a social perspective. All we did was get accomplices, confederates, in at least the control condition, to come in and make a small statement, a small suggestive statement to the subject at the point that they were observing the store.
You know, there's a lot of awesome candy over there. Too much extra.
That's it. That's it. A guy in a red shirt saying, dude, right? That's all it takes. Source 5, we tried to manipulate structural incentives as well. All we did here was say, just spend as much as you want, we'll deduct it from your earnings later. We gave him a credit account, gave him a credit card. Would that make a difference? 6th, we surrounded the room with decorations. The decorations were pictures of children enjoying candy. Just gave them a few little cues. And what happens? $40 goes to $13 in 10 minutes. Now, this wouldn't be particularly compelling unless we had an experimental condition, right? So as good scientists in the room, what you ought to be asking is, all right, well, if you change those, would behavior change? Well, let's do it. So let's, on the first case, from a personal motivation perspective, let's not put them in a hot mode. No taste of the candy. We're going to remove that. Second, we'll just give them a 60-second little practice opportunity for how to keep track of your savings and spending so you can keep a mental tally. Third and fourth, we'll ask those accomplices, those confederates, to take a different role. We'll just give them a different phrase to use.
I'm going to save my money. How about you?
I think I'm going to save my money. I think it'd probably be a good idea.
Again, modest little invention. Kid I've never met, babbling about saving his money. Would it have an influence on me? Source 5. We're going to take them off the credit account and pay them in cash. That way, as they surrender the cash, they'll experience the loss. And 6, we're going to take down the wallpaper. So what happens if all of those change? Let's have a look. Now, anecdotally, it looks like things were much different. Let's look at the data. So whereas the kids in the first condition walked out with $13, those in the second condition walk out with $34. This isn't a modest difference. This is a 270% difference. You know, in academics, we can get a PhD for finding a 5 to 10% difference in behavior. This is huge shifts. So if we've got 800,000 Janes that we want to influence, how do we think about that problem? Here's the takeaway. Leadership is intentional influence. What we know is that if you amass a strategy that includes all 6 of those sources of influence, people change. That's how it works.